Shalom, more praise to Yahweh Shemel Shah. The blind see Apostle Jim Mess. This is I'm Noah Allah coming at you with a video. And this is part 4 going into the Hasmonean Dynasty. So let's get right to it. Before I finished off at right here, where it said 2 years later, right here, highlight on your screen. So let's get right to it. It says 2 years later, the new state was recognized by the Roman Republic. Simon conquered Beth-Sasor and Joppa, and built the fortress of Adida. Let's look at that real quick. Fortress of Adida. This is the book of 1 Maccabees, chapter 12. I'm going to go right to the point, just so we can get some history on what we just read. Let's see. Alright, verse 33. Simon also went forth and passed through the country unto Ascalon, and the holds were adjoining, from whence he turned aside to Joppa and won it. For he had heard that they would deliver the hold unto them that took Demetrius' part, wherefore he set a garrison there to keep it. After this came Jonathan home again, and calling the elders of the people together, he consulted with them about building strongholds in Judea, and making the walls of Jerusalem higher, and raising the great mount between the tower and the city, for to separate it from the city, that so it might be alone, that men might neither buy nor sell it, that men might neither sell nor buy it, nor buy in it. Upon this they came together to build up the city, for as much as part of the wall toward the brook on the east side was fallen down, and they repaired that which was called Kaphinatha. Simon also set up Adida and Cephalah, and made it strong with gates and bars. So we're reading some of it. We just read an article about him building the fortress. I could have went further into it, but I kind of want to breeze through this one. You know, it says in February 130. So these other places that I'm reading over, y'all could just look it up on your own. In February 135 BCE, he was assassinated in a conspiracy organized by his son-in-law and rival Ptolemy, son of Abubus, Simon or Shimon. Simon was succeeded by his third son, Johanan John Hyrcanus. Judeans, and it says reign 104 BCE, so that's 30 years. Judeans were not the only headache of the shrinking Seleucid power. So it said Judeans were not the only headache of the shrinking Seleucid power. Now, why was the Seleucid power shrinking? First, let's look at a map of the Seleucid Kingdom. See that? This is the map of the Seleucid Kingdom. You see right here? It says Ptolemaic Kingdom in the green. And you see the map of the Seleucid Kingdom right here in the red. See that? So that's a map of the Seleucid Kingdom. This is from medium.com. It says the Seleucid Empire, the rise and fall of a Hellenistic state. The Seleucid Empire was the largest and most diverse of the successor states to Alexander's Macedonian Empire. It was able to field... Let me go back. Why did that pop up? Okay. I guess it must have popped up when I clicked it twice. For some reason, it must be a Facebook link or something like that on this page. I don't know. But anyway, it says the Seleucid Empire was the largest and most diverse of the successor states to Alexander's Macedonian Empire. It was able to field a large and powerful army led by kings who were first and foremost military commanders. The Seleucids managed to dominate Iran for 183 years, 312 to 129 BC, a notable achievement considering the fact that the only uniting force keeping the empire together was the marital prowess of the kings. Right, the marital prowess of the kings. If you go on Google, you look up Susa weddings or weddings of Susa, basically what Alexander did was he had basically he got his generals to marry different Persian women to basically ally them with the kingdom. Because if you look up the Seleucid Empire, it's also known as Seleucid Persia, because that was the regional land that they had reigned. Because remember, who did Alexander take down? Darius, who was what? The king of the Persians. Okay? As a matter of fact, this is who he was also known as. Those Persian kings were also known as Shah and Shah, which means king of kings. That's why in the book of Revelation, Yahweh Shah said, it was written that Yahweh Shah was the king of kings and lord of lords. Because that's who the Persians had called themselves. So Yahweh Shah said, no, y'all not the king of kings, I'm the king of kings. Okay? And if you type in Darius right after that, check this out. Let's go to this real quick. It's from titled King of Kings on Wikipedia. It says the title King of Kings was prominently used by the Achaemenid Persian kings such as Darius the Great. Pictured. See that right there? The full titulature of Darius was Great King, King of Kings, King in Fars, King of the countries, Hastep's son. So this is basically his full titulature. And Fars right here is Fars province. So, but titulature is basically like his full title. That was the full title of Darius. Darius was Great King, King of Kings, King in Fars, King of the countries, Hastep's son, Hiram's grandson, and Achaemenid. Just like we read the Bible, Yahushua, the son of Joseph, right? The son of Judah, the son of Israel. So you say Yahushua Bun Yahusap, which is Joseph, Bun Yahawada, which is Judah, because that's the tribe he came from, Bun Yasha'ala, meaning Israel. Yahushua Bun Joseph, or Yahushua Bun Yahusap, Bun Yahawada, Bun Yasha'ala, meaning Yahushua, the son of Joseph, the son of Judah, the son of Israel. Okay? That's why right here it says, who was an Achaemenid. Right here? No, not there. Right there. In other words, he was a Persian. Okay? The Achaemenid Empire, also called the First Persian Empire. Let's go back. I want to stick to the point. So let's continue on. It says, let me see. Okay, I said, check this out. It said the martial prowess of the kings. I thought it said marital, but then again, what I said was correct. The weddings of Susa, or the Susa weddings, that's still what Alexander did. I think they might even mention it later on in this article. I thought it said the marital prowess of the kings, the martial prowess of the kings. In other words, they were warlike. They were generals. Okay? At its height, the empire had a population equaling almost half of the Qin Dynasty in China. Eventually, the empire fell through a combination of court intrigues, constant infighting, and defeats in the hands of the Romans and Parthians. There's a lot of stuff here. Okay, I'm gonna keep reading there. I'm almost there. Dynastic history. Alexander the Great's death in 323 BC meant the end of the Macedonian Empire he had conquered, which disintegrated into competing Hellenistic kingdoms with the same speed as it had been created, which is true. Wars of the Diadochi or Diadochi. Yeah, all of them various wars that took place. As a matter of fact, did I mention it there? No, I don't mention it right there. But those are them wars. Ptolemy, Seleucus, Cassander, Lysimachus. Seleucus had, when you get into the history of it, you had, Seleucus, Ptolemy, Antigonus, and they was all fighting one another and taking over other territories. That's why when you look at certain maps of the Seleucid Empire, you'll start to see that it'll cover up certain parts that Antigonus had ruled, like the Antigonoid Empire, because they was conquering each other. But it said perhaps the most successful of the warlords that fought for dominance was Seleucus, 358 BC to 281 BC, who managed, or circa 358 BC, 281 BC, who managed to secure for himself most of Macedonian Asia. The Seleucid Empire was formally established with the recovery of Babylon from Seleucus' rival Antigonus in October 312. So that's the formal establishing of the Seleucid Empire. The Seleucid Empire was formally established with the recovery of Babylon from Seleucus' rival Antigonus in October 312, which that's talking about BC. Okay? Seleucus had been married to Apame, daughter of the Sogdian satrap Spitmeneses, since 324 on Alexander's order. See, on his orders. Unlike the other Macedonian generals, he did not divorce his wife after Alexander's death. So that goes right to what I was saying before. Unlike other Macedonian generals, he did not divorce his wife after Alexander's death, implying that other Macedonian generals did, which they did, divorce their wives. Either because she was politically useful for him in controlling the natives of the eastern provinces, or because he truly loved her, possibly both. Seleucus invaded Punjab in India in 305, confronting unsuccessfully Chandragupta Maurya, Sandrokotos, that must have been his Greek name or Greek title. that they may have referred to him as. Well, that's what it has to be. Let me see real quick. Yep. As soon as I click it up, it says, there you go. See? Right here. That's what you're known as by the Greeks. Let's go back. Hold on. 1 second. 1 second. That's it. We don't got to go into why he was called that. Founder of the Maurya Empire. He was forced to cede vast territories west of the Indus in exchange for elephants, which he used to defeat Antigonus in the Battle of Ipsus in 301. So that's another thing that Seleucus did. He ceded vast territories to these Iranians or Persians in exchange for elephants that he used to defeat Antigonus in the Battle of Ipsus. So these are examples of why the Seleucid Empire was shrinking. Different lands was being lost. And if you look at this map right here, check this out. Right here, it's kind of blurry, but it says green is Kingdom of Cassander. See, Macedon, Greece. This orange right here is the Kingdom of Laconicus, Thrace. You see Ephesus right there. Then it says Kingdom of Ptolemy right here in the blue. That's Ptolemaic Empire. She says Egypt. And it says Kingdom of Seleucus. See that, how vast that is? And then it said Epirus. And that's just a little small region right here. Yeah, it looks like that's that small little region right there. Yep. Let's go back. It says Seleucus then made an important decision when he moved the capital and thus the center of political power away from Iran and in Syria. So that's one of the major things he did that he messed up at. He moved the council. He moved the capital of the empire, man, away from Iran, and he moved it in Syria. That's why you got what? Antioch, which is the capital. Seleucus made an important decision when he moved the capital and thus the center of political power away from Iran and Syria. In 300, he founded Antioch on the lower Orontes in North Syria and constructed 2 artificial harbors, Seleucia and Laodicea, more than 1,700 miles. See that? Laodicea harbors? That goes into Revelation, but that's a whole nother show. More than 1,700 miles separated his capital from his outposts. In Jaxartes, and this made control of the eastern provinces difficult. A difficult task, and later on allowed them to declare independence. So that's what happened. That's what he did, where he messed up at. That's why I said shrinking Seleucid Empire. He moved the capital of the Seleucid Empire, which was once Babylon. He moved it away from Iran, and he moved it to Antioch, 1,700 miles away, which then caused those provinces on the eastern side of the empire to be harder to govern, and later on allowed them to declare independence, leading to the creation of the Greco-Bactrian kingdom and the Indo-Greek kingdoms. However, his move of the capital in Syria had advantages. He could closely monitor the Mediterranean and Greece, from which he could import ideas and, most importantly, men. He could also check Ptolemaic Egypt's advance in Palestine, where a series of Egyptian Seleucid wars were fought. So it had a benefit. He could monitor the Mediterranean. He could monitor Greece and the Ptolemaic kingdom. But then again, you move further away from your other subjects. Let's go back to that map one more time. See? This is where the capital was, right here. See right here, it says Babylon. And it says Media Persian Empire, which is Iran area. All this region here is this is like the Seleucid Kingdom. And this is parts of where the Median Empire had reigned. See right here, Iranian Plateau. They moved it right here, the capital, all the way over here to Syria, all the way over here to the region of Antioch, 1,700 miles, which therefore moved them away from all of this here. That's why when you go back, it said it created what? Go back one more time. It said Greco-Bactrian kingdoms. Where's Bactria? Right over here. So what happened was it caused these different people over here, these different subjects that they once had, to start banding together because they said, oh shoot, yo, he moved the capital further away from us. So now you can't monitor them as closely as you once did. Yeah, you can monitor what? Monitor what? The Ptolemaic Empire, which is this area here, and the Mediterranean, and Greece, because you're closer. But what about all your subjects over here? So that was one of their downfalls. And if you go to this map here, like the other map showed, this is the Ptolemaic Kingdom, right where I pointed it at on the last page. This is the Mediterranean, Greece, Macedon, up in this region over here. Now this is right here. It says the IndianExpress.com. How Seleucid Nicator gave away most of Pakistan and Afghanistan for 500 elephants. We read some of this before. I'm just going to jump down right to the point. I don't want to read too much. Okay. See if I can find it real quick. Okay. It says the 500 elephants in a treaty. The negotiations in the treaty signed between the Greek ruler and Maurya held considerable socio-political significance at the time. Seleucus was made to surrender several large provinces on the easternmost border of his empire, including Gandhara, Parapinmeside, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, Gedrosia, largely area around modern-day Afghanistan and Pakistan. In return, Maurya, the one we read about last time, but the Greek name, Sangrotos, I know I'm not pronouncing it correctly, but something along them lines, Sandra Krotos, if I'm not mistaken. In return, Maurya handed down 500 war elephants to Seleucus, along with mahouts, attendants, equipment, and supplies of food. Kosman argues that the treaty was this is the person who's writing about it. The treaty was a momentous and foundational act of the New World Order. See, New World Order. And the exchange of territory for elephants proved to be beneficial to both the parties. Geopolitically, Seleucus abandoned territories he could never securely hold in favor of peace and security in the East. The treaty and elephants allowed him to turn his attention to his rival Antigonus, which we read before. He used those elephants against Antigonus. Remember that? And then it says what? The treaty and elephants allowed him to turn his attention to his rival Antigonus, Monothalmus, which means Antigonus the One-Eyed. Syria and the Mediterranean, Kosman writes. On the other hand, the treaty paved the way for an unchallenged expansion into India's northwest corridor for Chandragupta Maurya and his empire. See that? Didn't mention the kings joined together in a marriage alliance, but that's good on that. So we see the area in which he moved his capital from Babylon to the area of region of Syria. This is like the Levant area, Levant, Fertile Crescent area, Babylon. This is the area of the which he moved it. Okay. Not only that, moving your territory. This is the same map we were looking at before. See Syria right here. You got the Zangros Mountains right here. And on the other side of these mountains was when you had all those other Persian kingdoms at. So they on the other side. This guy goes and he moves it from the capital from Babylon to Syria. Now all your other subjects, they're on the other side of these mountains gathering forces together. You can't take all of them down. You can't fight all of them. You don't know what the hell they doing. You can't really monitor them. That was a foolish move. I'm reading a little more to this in this, and I'm gonna go to a map. Right here. I'm gonna start from top. The Hellenic Empire was created by Alexander the Great, king of Macedonia, in his conquest between 334 and 326 BC. Essentially, it encompassed all the territory that was now under Macedonian control from Greece to India and was the largest empire that the world had seen at the time. Alexander rarely paused in extending its borders, especially eastwards, even though his army felt that enough was enough and forced an about turn. The unexpected death of Alexander in 323 BC changed the situation dramatically. Immediately, his generals divided the empire between them. Seleucid I gained a huge swath of territory from Lydia to western Anatolia through the Near East, including Syria, Phoenicia, and Mesopotamia, and Armenia towards the farthest eastern reaches of the empire, through Media and Persis and over to Bactria. We looked at these maps. The capital was initially at Babylon, and the capital was initially at Babylon, and the heartland of the former Achaemenid Empire that had preceded it. See, the capital was initially at Babylon, the heartland of the former Achaemenid Empire. So that was the heartland, or its core, its capital, of the Achaemenid Empire, of the former Achaemenid Empire that had preceded it, because that was before the Greeks. Just go take you to the 7th chapter. Like that empire, this one contained such a mix of peoples and languages that it was rarely a united entity. So it was all these different peoples, all these different languages, so it was really a united entity. Gradual losses of territory over subsequent decades drove the Seleucid heartland westwards. It drove them westwards to the west. So when you're looking at a map, west is what? To the left. That's why they moved it capital towards where? Antioch. Syria, closer to the west, closer to where the Ptolemaic Empire is at. The capital had to be transferred to Antioch on the Aronotis Syrian Antioch, which was founded around 300 BC and was renamed after one of the latest Seleucid kings. More territory was hived away by resurgent subject groups. Remember them other kingdoms. More territory was hived away by resurgent subject groups or new empires and splinter states, and the Seleucids were eventually bottled up in Syria with enemies all around them. Eventually, they was bottled up in Syria, right? Check this out. Let's look at the Seleucid Empire throughout time. See, Seleucid Persia. See how vast it is? It's vast, right? Seleucid Persia, 320 BC. Remember I mentioned before, Seleucid. Right here, you see, look, it says Antigonus. See, it says Antigonus right here. Now, remember, he had took them lands from Antigonus. So, like I said before, this will really be more vast. It'll really be more vast than this. You'll see more blue. Blue will cover like this region. Blue will cover like this region. And we know it definitely covered Jerusalem because why? You had Antiochus, who was of that Seleucid line, who had reigned over Jerusalem. So it'll be more blue all in this region over here. But this is just the Seleucid Persia in 320 BC. Okay? I know you may say, hold on, but that look kind of different. Babylon look a little bit closer than they do on other maps. But that's just how the map is, you know? This is them 20 years later. Seleucid Persia 320 BCE. Look a little smaller. Seleucid Persia 200 BCE. It looked even smaller than it did before, right? And what do you see right here in the green? What do you see right here in the green, brother? Parthian Kingdom. Parthian Kingdom. Nisa. That's in Parthia. Parthian Kingdom. That's what you see here, right? And what do you see? Now? Parthia is even bigger. And what is right here? Seleucid Kingdom. See how it says Seleucid Kingdom? Looks a lot smaller, don't it? Seleucid Persia, 75 BCE, it had got smaller, and the kingdoms that got bigger. Okay? That's why I said they were surrounded by enemies. They was bottled up in Syria, surrounded by enemies. Didn't we read that? More territory was hived away by resurgent subject groups or new empires and splinter states, and the Seleucids were eventually bottled up in Syria with enemies all around them. So boom, we got it. We got the history. That's why I said Judeans were not the only headache of the shrinking Seleucid Empire. In the northeast, we've looked at northeast, the northeast of what? Of Israel. Or northeast of the Seleucid Empire, which would be that area where we looked at the Parthian kingdom. Just rewind your video. The Parthian tribes, the semi-nomad Iranians in what is now Turkmenistan expanded southwards and westwards, northeast, right? And southwards and westward. Remember that, northeast, southwards, westward. What do we see? Northeast. This is northeast, right? Seleucid Empire. North, you go up, and then you go right, east, northeast. This is northeast. And it spreads southwards and westwards, right? That means down in this way, right? That's why I showed it expand all the way over here and went down and expanded to the west, to the south and to the west, like we did read. Okay? So it says, Judeans was not the only headache of the shrinking Seleucid Empire. In the northeast, the Parthian tribes of the semi-nomad Iranians in what is now Turkmenistan expanded southwards and westwards. And in 139 BCE, so it said they were in Turkmenistan. Here's Turkmenistan right here. Turkmenistan. Okay? Here's Turkmenistan. Let's get another map. See right here? Turkmenistan. And remember, we mentioned what? Didn't we read in the last article that it was certain regions of Pakistan and Afghanistan they gave up for 500 war elephants? Turkmenistan, ain't that same area that we looked at northeast of the Seleucid Empire? And it spreads southwards and westwards. See what I'm doing with this thing right here? Southwards and westwards. So this is that region they was at. They spread southwards and westwards, and then it was bottled up. The Seleucid Empire was bottled up in Syria, man. Isn't that the same thing we looking at? Huh? Okay. And then eventually spread from here all over here. Alright, so I'm gonna have to end this here. You know. So next show is gonna be the last part. This is like part 4. This really should have been part 3. Just that the last part was 10 minutes because I was outside on my way to a brother's house doing it, and my hands got real cold, so I was only able to do it like 10 minutes long. Plus, I didn't know how much space is on my phone. Like I uploaded that video on the internet. I had to delete it off my phone to create space. And then I had to clear a bunch of stuff off my phone just to do this video. Through the spirit of managed to make it this long. So with that, I'm going to close and say, oh, praise Yahweh, Bashem Shad, double lines, positive GMS. I wasn't able to get into a lot of scriptures on this show, this episode, because it was like a lot of history, but I didn't get into that initial scripture in the book of Maccabees. So with that, I'm going to close and say, oh, praise Yahweh, Bashem Shad, double lines, positive GMS. I hope you learn something. Shalom.